Well, hello everybody. Welcome to this webinar. This webinar on the 12 must-have charts on your Salesforce dashboard. These are the charts that give you robust visibility of the sales pipeline, that help you improve forecasting accuracy, that give you the ability to run effective one-to-ones and pipeline reviews. So this is the information that helps you as sales managers or sales operations people manage the pipeline more effectively, get full visibility of the size, the quality, and the trend in the sales pipeline. So we're going to go through each chart. I'm going to talk about it. I'm also going to explain where to get 3 free key resources. And one of those resources is the actual dashboard and charts that I'm going to go through right now. So once again, welcome to the webinar. I'm your host, I'm Gary Smith, and I'm very pleased to say that with me is on the line is Ben Affleck-Curry. Ben, are you there?
I am here. Hi everyone,
Good.
thanks for joining me today.
You're going to look
I'm going to
after
be
the
handling
questions and so on, Ben?
Yeah, I was just about to say I'm going to be
Yeah.
handling all of the questions today. So if anyone does have any questions, feel free to use the questions panel on the GoToWebinar. I can actually see, funny enough, someone has already asked the question, will the webinar be recorded? And I can already tell you it will be. And we'll probably be sending that out tomorrow afternoon, so you can expect that then.
Perfect. Okay.
Okay.
So you're just going to jump in with any pertinent questions, Ben, and I think
Yeah,
what
I'll try and intervene
what
when
about if we don't get a chance to answer all of the questions that come up? I know we always get a lot of questions on these things.
Yeah, we do our best to try and answer them throughout the webinar, but sometimes there is just far too many to cover. So if we don't get to you during the webinar, don't worry, we will be in touch, probably through email, either later today or very early tomorrow morning. So look out for that.
Okay, so if in doubt, put your question into the chat post. So let's jump straight in. I've got a Salesforce dashboard in front of me, and you know, on most charts, on most dashboards, you're going to see we want to know what we've won this financial year, and we've got some metrics about that for this quarter and for this year, and we're going to see what we've won by salesperson, and that's sort of interesting. But really, where the action is, where the emotional energy and all the activity is I would say, it's really in these next two big charts that I've got in the dashboard. These are the first two charts that we're going to look at. And it's this one here, close date by stage. So this is pipeline by month of close date, and you can see it by stage. And I've got a chart underneath. There's the same data, but this time we're looking at the pipeline opportunities by individual person as well. And for the benefit of anybody who's subsequently watching the video recording, the webinar recording, we are in the middle of July at the moment. So I'm going to look at this pipeline, and let's just take a look at it based on where we are right now, which is the middle of July, which rather begs the question of why we've got some pipeline in June as well, because probably unless you've got a time turner, those deals aren't going to close in June. But let's come back to those. That's something you see very often. We've got a bunch of deals due to close in July. And we've got a descending pipeline for the rest of the month. That's okay. One thing that immediately catches my eye on this is the pipeline that's due to close in December. I deal with a lot of companies where at the beginning of the year, the salespeople everybody's under pressure to create a lot of pipeline. So everybody's enthusiastic. They create a lot of pipeline, and inevitably some of those deals, or invariably some of those deals, are, let's say, wishful thinking, or not really qualified opportunities yet. But we're under pressure to create pipeline. Oh, bound to close sometime this year. So we put it in December, and sometimes when you drill down on those, you find actually they're due to close on the 31st December, which if most people like me are probably in the pub on the 31st of December, so not many deals get done that day. So that's something to watch out for. But let's go a little bit closer to home. Let's have a look at the July pipeline. And well, we've got some deals in prospecting. That's the first stage, investigation, proposal made, and so on. Now, I don't know what the sales cycle is in your business, but in many B2B organizations, it's anything from 1 or 2 months up to 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 months, and in some businesses longer than that. But in many B2B organizations, the sales cycle is typically, let's say 3 months. Now, if you've got deals in prospecting that are due to close in July, my first question is, are those deals, are you really going to get those deals all the way through the sales cycle? So we're already starting to be a little bit skeptical about that. In fact, let's just drill down and have a look at 1 or 2 of those opportunities. So I'm drill down to the underlying report, and let's have a look at some of these deals in prospecting. So incidentally, what you just saw me do there is a feature of any lightning report. I've drilled down from the dashboard. And if you click your mouse on those individual numbers, you can set it so the individual details that make up those numbers appear underneath. So that deal that's in prospecting, for example, it's owned by John. Look at this. It's been open. This opportunity is in prospecting. It's due to close in July, and yet it's been open more than a year. This opportunity has been open 412 days, and look at that. The close date has slipped. Not just moved, but it's slipped from 1 month to another month 4 times already. It's 154 days since the stage was last updated. Now, I don't know about you, but John, are you seriously telling me that in the next, whatever it is, 10 or 12 working days that there are in July, are you seriously telling me this deal is going to close this month? I'm immediately skeptical. And that's important because very often when we look at the pipeline, we've got $860,000 in the pipeline due to close in July. And that might sound fantastic, but can we rely on it? Everybody has seen pipeline that slips from 1 month to the next. You think you're going to be great, you think you're going to be bang on, and then all of a sudden you're struggling. And this is an example of exactly the sort of reason why. Let's just have a look at another one. Another one, again, been open a year. Close dates moved 5 times. That's not going to, I doubt that's going to close. So same thing and so on. So you can start to interrogate the data. Here's one that, excuse me, it's an existing customer. Okay. It's only been open 2 months. Fine. I'm beginning to get a warmer feeling now. The close date's never moved at all. The stage was just updated a month ago. So Sarah, that might be a deal we want to focus. What are we going to do, Sarah? What's our close plan? What specific steps are we going to take to close that deal? And we could go and, I won't do it now, but we could go and investigate that deal in a bit more detail and check that Sarah's on the case. So in terms of getting a reliable forecast for this month, this is the first place I always start by looking at the deals due to close in this month, or if I'm interested in the quarter, same thing for the next month and so on. And we can do that by stage. We can also do it by going into the chart, the pipeline by owner. Let's just have a quick look at that one. So same sort of thing. So now we've got the pipeline by individual person. Now we can see a bit more detail about who owns what opportunities in each stage. And I'd be going into that deal. Is that one deal or 2 deals? I think this is one, maybe the one we've just looked at. Same thing. So you start to get some understanding of the deals. Now, these opportunities in June, again, you see this time and time again. Incidentally, if you don't want to see the detail, you want a better picture of the report, you can just flick that detail rows off there. So now we're back up to the top level report. So Dave Apthorpe, unless you can turn back time, you're not going to win deals that are that have a close date in June. But again, it's a very common thing. And in fact, I wrote a blog post called we coined the term a bedraggled washing line, because time and again you look at the pipeline and you look at the open deals, and there's a set of close dates as long as your arm going back in the past. So have a look at our bedraggled washing line if you want some advice about what to do about those deals. But But really, this is the sort of thing that happens when either of these deals have just been there a long time and they're just not being managed, or actually maybe the deal was won or it's lost, it's just not been updated. Some of these other deals that are in our pipeline for July, these deals that have been around a long time, again, in very many businesses, the biggest competitor is not actually another company. The biggest competitor is do nothing. The customer just doesn't do anything. And yet those deals hang around in the pipeline. They are distorting the pipeline. We could go and look at the other months and pick out deals that are giving us a false view of the size of the pipeline, and are making our forecasting much more difficult. These deals no longer have legs. Weed them out of the pipeline. We've been in quite a bit of research just recently with some major multinational companies in which we look at the sales velocity, the stage by stage sales velocity. And what we invariably find is that the velocity, the time in each stage for deals that are won is always much shorter than deals that have been lost. The lost sales cycle is much longer. And it's symptomatic of deals being in the pipeline. It's sometimes wishful thinking, or deals getting carried forward, or maybe something will happen next month, and so on. So the sales cycle for one deals where there's a bit of impetus is always in all of those companies much shorter. We've analysed, we're on our way to analysing about 10,000 opportunities like that, again, looking for trends in a range of different industries. Let's go back to our dashboard. You saw me highlight one or two metrics there. So this is a different view of the same metrics. This one about the number of close date month extensions. We have two metrics. We're only showing one of them here in terms of close date movement. We have one metric that counts the number of times the close date has moved. And to be honest, if it moves from this week to next week, nobody's going to be really too bothered. It's when it moves from one month to the next month, that's when people are getting much more agitated. So we have that metric, the day since the last stage change, days open, and so on. And you can run this table by deals closing this quarter or deals closing this month. It's very often it's interesting to look at it for deals closing this month, and it really helps to focus the eye on deals that there's a very good chance those deals are going to let you down. So there's three metrics: the month date extensions, the day since last stage change, a days open. They are part of the package, which I'll talk about at the end. They're part of the free dashboard that you can download. If you haven't already done so, you can download it from the App Exchange and get your hands on all of these charts on the dashboard. Now then, let's just talk about something else for a minute. I'm just going to deviate away from the dashboard because many people search in vain for the targets tab in Salesforce. If you're searching, stop right now. It doesn't exist. There is a forecast tab. There's fundamentally three ways of tracking sales performance against target in Salesforce, and one of those ways we have at the bottom here. It's this one here, and this is by far the simplest. You can set it up in 5 minutes. It's part of the dashboard package, and it simply tells you can set within the dashboard the parameters for red, green, and amber, and it just gives you a ready reckoner. So it's a very simple approach. One of the issues is that you've got to update the red, green, and amber every month, or you've got to have 12 gauges if you want a gauge for every month. And it doesn't really tell you anything about the pipeline. This is one deal, so it doesn't really tell us anything about whether we have enough pipeline. Do we have enough pipeline to meet our target this month, or do we have enough pipeline to meet our target this quarter? And Salesforce doesn't, in the terms of the standard charts, doesn't actually tell you that. You can do a bit of a calculation on that. One of the ways that we have done that, and this is an app we have developed. It's in beta with a number of customers at the moment. We plan to launch it on the App Exchange before the end of July. But this is a target tracking app, and it tells you much more about the pipeline. So, for example, this is the target for Dave Apthorpe for the month of July, and you can see Dave's target is $50,000. He's already banked $29,000. He's got $48,000 in the pipeline. Fantastic, except for the fact that the weighted value of that pipeline is only $12,000. So all things being equal, we would expect Dave to do, well, he's got 29 there, plus the 12 of his weighted pipeline is 41. So actually, Dave's got a bit of a shortfall there. And you can see those percentages on the right-hand side there. But if this was real data, I would be even more concerned, because you can see that, so this is the target for this month, and you can see that 27k, so more than half of that is still in qualification, and there's still a chunk in needs analysis and value proposition and so on. There's only 6k in negotiation. So if this, I'd actually be saying, Dave, I think you might have a bigger problem here than that stored up for yourself. And I think this sort of information is crucial for really not only kind of say, well, have we got enough pipeline to meet the target, but it's also, well, what do we do about that? Is it realistic this month or next month just to go out and get more pipeline? Maybe there are some existing customers, some upgrades, or whatever it might be that we can sell. So maybe there is more pipeline we could go and get, or maybe we could go and advance some of these deals. Or maybe there's just nothing much, it's just not realistic to go and get some more pipeline. So maybe we have to cut our losses and focus on the next month. So it really is a way of looking at the individual opportunities. These are the opportunities that are automatically calculating those numbers, and say, well, what's our strategy for this month and next month, and so on. So keep your eye open for that. We'll be announcing it over the next few weeks. As I say, it's in beta at the moment. There's a whole dashboard and stack of other functionality to go with it. So keep your eye open for that.
Hi, Gary. Sorry, just before we continue through the dashboard, we've had a couple of questions.
Sure.
First question, can you show any reports specific to new business, from prospecting leads for new customers to winning new business? A first order from a customer, for example.
Just repeat the question. Is it you use the word about leads in there as well, Ben?
Yeah, from prospecting leads for new customers to winning new business. That's the way they've worded it.
Yeah, sure. Well, there's probably two ways to answer that question. Any of these reports, any of the reports on the dashboard, if you install the dashboard, you can go and customize it and modify it. Use the dashboard as a starting point for what's important in your business. So one of the answers to that question is, well, actually what you could go and do is we could go and we could either we could enter the opportunity type and filter on new customers, for example. That would be one way to do that. The other way to do that would be we could add the opportunity type as a separate column here, and put it in there, and we could run it by. I'd probably put it into the column rather than across the top, actually, but you get the idea. So you can adapt the report to run in different ways. So if you do download the dashboard, adjust the reports, adjust the charts to see what's important to you. So I would say, comparing new customers and existing customers is quite a common way. Another way you might want to look at that, I'm going to talk about conversion rates in just a second, but because you use the word lead there, Ben, one of the other, this I would say is a very uncommon thing to do, but with a bit of, if you want to know more detail about you want some advice about how to do this sort of thing, then let us know. But what this is doing is saying it's tracking the conversion rate, the opportunity conversion rate for opportunities that came from a converted lead versus opportunities that were created directly on the account. Now, if you just think about that, generally, many new customers, not always, but a lot of new customers come from a converted lead. So this is the the conversion rate by the number of leads and the number of opportunities and the value of the opportunities, where those opportunities came from a converted lead versus those opportunities that were created directly on the account. So where you've got existing customers and you're creating opportunities directly on the account, you want to know the conversion rate there. But it's interesting to know the conversion rate overall against opportunities that that came from converted leads, and that's exactly what we're showing here, along with some other metrics as well, actually. So, for example, we're showing leads by lead source here that were converted to opportunities. What was the conversion rate on those opportunities? So you can see in this example, the conversion rate for web leads. When I say conversion rate, I'm talking about opportunity conversion rate, not the number of leads that were converted. I'm talking about the opportunity win rate. You can see it's higher for web leads rather than phone leads or purchase lists, if you're still allowed to do that. There's a bunch of other metrics that you can see there. I won't go into too much. It's probably worthy of a webinar in its own right, actually. But you get the idea, and you can use a lot of these reports to segment. You can also use these type of reports. Let's just talk a bit more about conversion rates, because down here on the left-hand side, here we go. So this is a conversion rate chart. What is a conversion rate chart? This is the conversion rate of, in each month, the ratio of won opportunities to lost opportunities. Now, a few things about this, really. First of all, if you know your conversion rate, so you know your opportunity win rate, and you know the conversion rate of leads, you know the conversion rate of opportunities that came from leads versus opportunities that were created directly on the account, and you know your average deal size, which actually, incidentally, is on the chart below, but you know your average deal size, then let's say you're thinking about 2020 right now. So if your target is, just to pick a number, $10 million for the year, you can actually work backwards now, because you know your opportunity conversion rate, you know your average deal size, so that tells you how many opportunities you need. So where are those opportunities going to come from? Well, we now know the ratio, the win rate for opportunities created on accounts versus the opportunities created directly on from converted leads. So we can work out, we can play around with some numbers and say, well, you know, we need X number of opportunities sold to existing customers, and we need Y number of opportunities sold to new business. Well, if I'm going to get Y opportunities, if I'm going to get 1,000 opportunities from converted leads, how many leads do I need? And you can actually work backwards. That's how many. If I need 10,000 leads, where am I going to get those leads from? And it's a topic for a different day, but start to look at those ratios by campaign, by lead source, and so on. You can actually work backwards, and then you can say, right, what's our marketing strategy? Do we need more salespeople? What can we do to hit our number? Which conversion rate would we have to increase? Probably all of them, but how? How are we going to do that? So you can start just to use these. You know, very often people use dashboards to look backwards in time. They don't use dashboards enough to look forwards in time as well. And these are the sort of things that you can start to say, well, I've got some visibility now of historic visibility, but I can start to use it to get some prediction and forecasting for the future as well. Just let me Ben, let me bang on about conversion rates just for another minute, actually, because if you look at the conversion rates, you look at the conversion rates on this chart, I wouldn't normally believe those conversion rates. So what the lighter color is saying, that's our win rate on opportunities by the number of opportunities, and what's our win rate by the value of opportunities. So in April, it implies we actually converted a higher proportion of lower value opportunities. Now, there's not many businesses that have a conversion rate in, what's the average of that? There's not many companies that have a conversion rate of 50, 60, 70%. I would say much more likely, and this goes back to the numbers, to be careful, much more likely is one of two things. First of all, people aren't putting deals into the pipeline until they are confident there is a deal there to be won. Okay, so they're putting in them opportunities that are well advanced. The problem with that is you are losing pipeline visibility. You don't know what the shape of your pipeline is, and you don't have an accurate picture for the future months, for next quarter, for example. And the other possibility, and it might be happening as well in the same environment, is that people are not moving deals out of the pipeline that, with the best will in the world, that deal's not going to close. But the fact that it's still in the pipeline means the conversion rate is artificially high. And we saw some of the numbers just slightly higher up on the dashboard. That would seem to be the case here. There's a lot of deals in the pipeline that probably should come out, and that would be distorting the opportunity conversion rate. So just be careful with conversion rates in terms of the win to loss ratio. Too much emphasis on conversion rates can sort of encourage the very activity that you want to avoid. I feel better, Ben, for getting that off my chest.
Do you want to answer the other two questions that came in now?
Oh, okay, yes.
Yeah, is that okay?
Yeah.
First one was, how do we create the close month extension field?
The easiest way to do that, and why don't we cover this topic now rather than at the end, is I'm going to open Ben, but not to worry. If you go to the if you Google or you go to the App Exchange and you put in App Exchange and you go to, if you search on the App Exchange for, in fact, it's coming up there automatically because I've looked at it before, but you search on GSP sales dashboard. It's the one with the kind of orange logo and the binoculars. It's this one here. And go and install that dashboard, and you will get those metrics as part of this dashboard. Two things. Install the dashboard. Before you install the dashboard, make sure that if you're using Enterprise Edition, make sure you have historical trending enabled on opportunities. If you don't know where historical trending is, let me show you. You go to Setup. In the setup box, I'm in Classic here, but it's fine. It's exactly the same in Lightning. In the setup box, type in HIST. Go to historical trending. Just enable it for opportunities, because one of the charts requires this feature. If you are using Professional Edition, there is a Professional Edition version of this chart. It might even be at the bottom. It's this one here. So if you're using Professional Edition, install that version. If you're using Enterprise Edition, install this version. Now, just one other final thing to say is that when you install those metrics, it puts 3 or 4 fields onto the opportunity. You don't have to have those fields on the page layout. You can use them in reports without being there. The number of close date extensions, there's 2 fields. Just go through your opportunities using the data loader or list view, put the number 0. So when we install the field, when we install the package, the field will be there, but it will be null. It won't have anything in it. So just go through for the existing opportunities, or at least the existing pipeline, put a 0 into those, and from that point onwards, it will start to increment. It'll start to increment for brand new opportunities. It will merrily start to count the close date changes straight away. For the existing opportunities, if you want to start counting them from today, go through and put a 0 into those 2 fields, and it will start to count. Was there another question, Ben, that you wanted me to quickly answer?
Yeah, that was great. Yeah, there's one more before we continue.
Yeah.
How do you identify white space for existing customers for cross-selling, upselling product solutions, opportunities, etc.?
Wow. I would say in some ways that is an account management question, but it's a dashboard question as well. That often happens, by the way, in organizations that have multiple what would you call them, multiple business units or multiple hierarchies. To get around that problem, because you can't report on that group of companies, so to get around that problem you need something called the ultimate parent. search on our blog for Ultimate Parent. You'll find an article explaining about that. So you need the Ultimate Parent. It allows you to report holistically. There's no real fantastic way to do that out of the box, but with the Salesforce in terms of identifying that white space, I presume the person is talking about, well, where we haven't done enough upselling and cross-selling and that kind of thing. What I would suggest you do is on the opportunities, I would use products and product families. And what I would probably do is, one thing you could do is create a roll-up field from the opportunity products. You might need a little tiny bit of code to do it, but have a field on the account that says last time they bought something with this product family. Last time they bought something with, you might need to create a few different fields, but you can use that as a way to either stamp a date or tick a checkbox to say the last time they bought something with this product family and this collection of products, or this product family and this collection of products, and so on and so forth, and then use that information from a reporting point of view. So I'd be interested actually for whoever asked that question, what they think of that, and just whether there's any sort of elaboration they want to give about how they do it actually.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for that, Gary. Just as a side note as well, for everyone who has asked questions, if there is any content that we have on our website that is relevant to that question, I've shared it with you directly in the questions panel. So do have a look in there if you want to have a look at the blog posts, etc.
Perfect. Where should we go now? Let's have a look at one or two of these other charts on here. So average deal size, I just hinted about that a second ago. It would be that big average deal size, wouldn't it? So we've got some opportunities in here, but sometimes your average deal size is obviously going to be lower. One of the reasons for using products, there are many reasons for using products and opportunities. If you're not using products and opportunities, I would almost certainly say you should think about it, and you probably should be, because it opens the door to a whole raft of benefits. But one of the benefits of doing that is it allows you to break down this sort of thing in a bit more detail. So, for example, loosely speaking, if we can group products by, let's say, a product family, a product category of sort of main equipment and accessories, just to take a flippant example, then we'd be able to look at the average deal size and the number of opportunities that break each person down by those two different categories, or 3 or 4 categories, or whatever it might be. So it starts to tell you that one person, for example, Dave, might have a higher average deal size because he's selling more of the accessory type of products and so on as well. So simply from this, what we do know is that Dave, on average, has a higher average deal size than other people. So if you're using products, you can do another level of analysis of that. But one of the things about reports and dashboards is they don't tell you the answer. Unfortunately, reports don't tell you the answer. What they do tell you is what questions to ask. And we can see here that Dave has consistently got the highest average deal size. Now, is that because he's dealing with bigger customers? Is that because he's more experienced? Is it because he's discounting less? Is it because he's selling more incidental and secondary products within the overall package? Is it because he's a better negotiator? We don't know from this report. We don't know that. But with your understanding of your sales organization and the context in which people are operating in, then it starts to give you some insight on that. And there's so many pipeline reviews I've attended, so many sales team meetings I've attended, where actually so many coaching sessions as well, actually, where really, the time is spent arguing about the numbers. You argue about the numbers rather than what are we going to do about the numbers, and what's the reason for the trend in the numbers. For example, what's the reason for the reduction in the conversion rate in May? We don't know from this report, but we know it happened. And the average deal size and so on. So we know Dave has the highest average deal size. We know it's highest in February. So why was that? We know it happened. Now let's start to understand why and what we're going to do about it. Let's come on to the this one here. This is not everybody's favorite, but I like it. This is the expected revenue. We talked earlier on about the size of the pipeline and weeding out low quality deals, getting getting a robust view of the pipeline, because if you don't, you're just kidding yourself. Now, the thing about the pipeline for July, August, whenever excuse me. The thing about the pipeline for July, August, September, you can see in July actually we've already got some deals. One, that's great. We're already well on our way. And we've got some pipeline which we know is much higher than this. So just to make sure everybody is clear what I'm talking about here, the expected revenue is the opportunity probability multiplied by the amount. So why should you use it, and why create a forecast based on expected revenue, the weighted revenue, in other words? Well, the reason is that you're not going to win every deal in the pipeline. I mean, and the same problem is you don't know which deals you're going to. You might be able to make. You're going to prioritize and you're going to put some more effort into this, but you don't actually know which deals you're going to win and which deals you're going to lose. If you knew which deals you were going to lose, you won't bother going after them in the first place. So we know we're going to win some and we know we're going to lose some. So using the expected revenue, using that probability multiplied by the amount, is a pretty good way in many organizations of getting a statistically reliable sales forecast. If you only have 2 opportunities a month, it isn't. If you've got 10, 15 opportunities a month, you're starting to get some reliable information about, well, what is it reasonable for us to expect? Now, that is really predicated on 2 things. First, there isn't a whole load of junk in the pipeline, so we don't have deals in the pipeline that really shouldn't be there, have no business being there. So we use the earlier charts to say, do the deals in the pipeline for July, August, whenever, do we believe it? Is there a reasonable chances at the right stage and the right month? And if it is, then we can use the opportunity probability. Which rather begs the question of, well, what is the probability of winning a deal? And of course, you don't know. But as probably most people know, in Salesforce, you can have a predefined probability for each stage. So that's one way. But what's less well known is that the salesperson can overwrite that probability. So if we go to an opportunity, you can actually enter in and you can overwrite the probability. Why would you do that? Well, the reason you do that is, maybe, just maybe, we've got this deal in investigation. This one's actually for a new customer. Have we got one for an existing customer? New customer. Existing. Here we go. So our default probability for the proposal made stage might well be 30%, but we could go to that opportunity because we know it's an existing customer. They've got a track record of buying. There might be all sorts of reasons that we actually want to increase that probability. So don't be shy of encouraging people to set what they think is a realistic probability in order to come up with an expected revenue and a reliable forecast. We have one VP of sales actually in Boston. He doesn't let salespeople. So they have one stage where the default probability is 50%. He doesn't let people put in 50%. You've got to go and change it. You can put in 49% or you can put in 51%. I don't mind, but just tell me which side of the fence you're on. So it's a way of actually making people think about the deals. A couple of other things. This chart here, I usually call it the ASAT chart. It shows the size of the pipeline on the 1st of April, 1st of May, 1st of June, 1st of July, and so on. So it's telling us what is the trend in the pipeline. Is the pipeline getting bigger? And all other things being equal, if it's getting bigger, that's a good thing. So this ASAT report, the long-term pipeline trend, is a good way of tracking that. All the usual caveats about, well, making sure it's the right quality of pipeline and its deals have been qualified and all the rest of it. But all other things being equal, we want to know about the pipeline. this rather slightly odd looking chart here on the left hand side. Normally wouldn't quite look like that, but you can see Ben has done a bit of work to create some opportunities for me to work with today. This is the pipeline by created date, so these deals are still open, and it shows us the pipeline by created date. And normally you'd have a whole series of months going back there, and in some cases you might have months going back a long way, last year and even the year before. And it's a surrogate. It's a surrogate for saying, do I believe the overall size of my pipeline? Can I be confident in it? And looking at the pipeline by created date is one way to do that. And before I talk a bit more about the kind of free resources that you can get and so on, a lot of people find this report interesting. Let's just have a look at the report. You know, all other things being equal, if you're going to lose a deal, you might as well lose early. So this report is saying, for deals that were set to lost, this happens to be in the last 120 days, for deals that were set to lost, where were they set to lost from? So two deals went from prospecting to lost, 2 deals from investigation, that's good. 2 deals actually from proposal made. You want those numbers, those kind of early stage numbers. If you're doing a good job of investigation and qualification, all the rest of it. What would worry me about this? We had 4 deals. We went all the way through the sales cycle. We got to the very end of the sales cycle. We put all that effort in. We probably thought we were going to win the deal, and yet those opportunities were set to lost. So it's a good way of starting to say, well, are we, again, it doesn't tell you the answer, but the questions are we qualifying properly? Were those deals new customers versus existing? Maybe the existing, I'd be more concerned. I don't know. Depends on the business. Are we qualifying well? Are we identifying the stakeholders? Do we have a close, this sort of thing. So again, it's giving you another piece of information.
There's a couple of questions, Gary, we could cover before we kind of wrap things up at the end. We've got one here. If a rep overrides a probability for a stage, when they change to the next stage in progression, will it still automatically reset to the default for that new stage, or will it be overridden?
Yeah, it will default to the standard value, unless you automate it further with a workflow rule, something like that. But in that situation, sometimes you want human judgment. So yeah, you're a trained reps to do that.
Sure. Okay, and the final question, someone mentioned that you hadn't covered the traditional funnel chart that they saw slightly further up or in the middle of the dashboard. Is there anything you could say about that to help them out?
This one here?
Yeah, the pipeline shape.
If you're in a workshop with sales managers and you say, what charts do you want? The first chart they usually draw is the funnel chart. I kind of have mixed views about it, really, because the first issue I have with it is the shape of the funnel never actually changes, and you've got to kind of squint at it a little bit. Yeah, the purpose of this chart, to my mind, is to say, is my overall funnel in shape? Does it look healthy? And actually, which of those sections, the lighter blue or the darker blue, which is bigger? Which is the greatest surface area here? You kind of got to squint at it a little bit. But really, what's interesting is that's 1.4 and that's 1.9, and that's actually 2.1. So those numbers are almost the same. They're almost both 2 million. Now, so the questions I'll start to ask there is, do I have enough early stage funnel? Perhaps not. The fact that investigation and proposal made are more or less the same amount, am I being clear with the guys about, well, what takes place during investigation and what takes place during proposal made? Are we clear about the delineation between them? Why are we rushing deals through investigation in order to get the proposal out? Is that why the two, are we turning deals that really should be investigation, pushing them into proposal made? So it's a kind of useful chart to look at occasionally. I might look at that and say, maybe we need to do a bit more marketing to get some early stage pipeline in. And in fact, if you look at this one, this lighter color is our early stage. Do we have enough early stage pipeline? Maybe not. So it's you use it occasionally. That's what I'd say about that one.
Okay, great.
So,
That was it for the questions.
okay. So, 3 free resources. We talked about the sales dashboard. So, where did I have it? There you go. So, go to the App Exchange. You can download and install the charts and reports that we've just looked at now. The second resource on my slide here is the ebook and webinar recording. So we've been recording this webinar. We will publish it probably tomorrow. There is an accompanying blog post and an accompanying ebook, which is here. So this is the ebook. I'm not going to go through it, but you get the idea. It's got the most important thing on, a picture of me, and some introduction. We go through all of these charts, and I've written some text. We've, as a company, have written some text for each of those. So you get the idea. To get your hands on that ebook, the easiest way to do that is to go to our blog post. So to go to GarySmithPartnership.com, go to blog, and if you weren't aware, we have written over 150 blog posts on pretty much all things Salesforce, but with an emphasis on the Sales Cloud, on pipeline visibility, on all sorts of stuff. So you get the idea. Go to any of those blog posts, and on the right-hand side of the blog post, so we'll obviously be taking this call to action off for the webinar shortly, but on the right-hand side of the blog post, get the ebook, fill in that. There's all you've got to do is type in your email, and you can get the dashboard. You can get the ebook that we looked at. So that's the dashboard. That's the ebook and charts that we talked about. The final thing is if you would like to talk about Salesforce in your organization. If you'd like to have a session with me, we offer everybody who's attended the webinar, we offer them a 30-minute session with myself. We'll actually talk about any aspect of Salesforce that you want. Obviously, a lot of people want to talk about reports, dashboards, they want to talk about pipeline visibility. They also want to talk about improving the sales process. They want to talk about how a better way to use leads, and when should you convert leads to opportunities, how do leads work with campaigns, all of that topic. So if any of those you're struggling to get the full benefit from Salesforce, then you are more than welcome to have 30 minutes with myself. It won't be quite as frenetic as this. We'll have your Salesforce. We'll have a conversation, basically, and I will definitely be able to give you a few pointers on how to get more benefits out of Salesforce. So that's it. Thank you very much for your attention. We are just about bang on time. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you for joining us. Ben, thanks for organising. Thanks for your hard work in getting everything ready.
Yeah, no problem. Absolutely fine.
See you next time.